The twin sons of Ashmar beat down mercilessly on the ramshackle trading outpost, turning the dusty streets into an oven. Marcus Vale pulled his wide-brimmed hat lower, shielding his weathered face from the glare. At 43, he looked older, the kind of aging that came from too many battles and too much regret. "Stay close, Rusty," he muttered to the mechanical canine padding beside him. The robot dog's optical sensors whirred as it scanned the crowded marketplace, its metallic frame gleaming dully beneath layers of dust. Marcus had come to Ashmar for one reason, to disappear. After 20 years flying combat missions for the Terran fleet, he'd walked away with nothing but his discharge papers, a modest pension, and memories that wouldn't let him sleep. This forgotten corner of colonized space seemed as good a place as any to fade into obscurity. The marketplace was a chaotic sprawl of vendors hawking everything from stolen technology to questionable foodstuffs. Aliens of a dozen species jostled past, their voices creating a cacophony in multiple languages. Marcus navigated through it all with practiced indifference, seeking only the basics: fuel cells, protein rations, water purification tablets. That's when he heard the scream. His body reacted before his mind caught up, muscle memory from years of combat propelling him toward the sound. Rusty bounded ahead, its sensors locked on the disturbance. In a shadowy alcove between two dilapidated stalls, Marcus found the source. A grotesque alien merchant, his blubbery body covered in mottled green scales, was beating a woman. She was curled on the ground, her slender arms raised defensively as the merchant's thick appendage struck her repeatedly. "Worthless creature," the merchant bellowed in broken standard. "3 cycles I feed you, and you produce nothing. No work, no speak, completely useless." Marcus's jaw tightened. The woman was clearly not fully human, though she possessed a humanoid form. Her skin had a subtle. Marcus didn't waste time asking questions. 20 years of combat experience had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every instinct screamed danger. "Move," he said quietly, guiding the woman behind a stack of cargo containers. Rusty immediately positioned himself as a rear guard, his optical sensors tracking the approaching figures. The woman, still unnamed, pressed close to Marcus's side. Through his shirt, he could feel her trembling, but also that strange electrical sensation where their bodies touched. It was growing stronger, almost like a resonance between them. "My ship's in Dock Bay 7, Marcus whispered. "We need to reach it without drawing attention." She nodded, her copper-tinted fingers clutching his jacket tightly around her shoulders. Her amber eyes met his briefly, and in that moment, Marcus saw something flicker across her face: concentration, perhaps, or calculation. They moved quickly through the marketplace, using the crowd as cover. Marcus kept his hand near his pistol, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. The 3 armed figures had split up, systematically searching the area. "How did you know they were coming?" Marcus asked as they ducked into a narrow alley between 2 prefabricated buildings. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, frustration evident in her expression. She touched her throat, then her temple, trying to communicate something. "You can't speak?" Marcus asked. "Or you won't." Before she could respond, Rusty's warning bark echoed off the alley walls. Marcus spun to see one of the hunters blocking their exit, a massive reptilian alien with scales the color of dried blood. "Step away from the female, human," the hunter hissed, raising a particle rifle. "She belongs to Krieg. He wants her back alive. He doesn't care about." Marcus's hand moved to his pistol, but he knew he was outgunned. Then he felt it, a surge of warmth from the woman beside him, that electrical sensation suddenly flooding through his. 3 days of hard flying brought them to the edge of charted space. Marcus had been running on stimulants and determination, constantly checking their sensors for signs of pursuit. Sienna spent most of her time resting in the small cabin, her body recovering from years of abuse and the strain of using her abilities during their escape. Their connection had grown stronger. Marcus would find himself thinking of her, and moments later, she would appear in the cockpit doorway. Sometimes, when he slept, he dreamed her dreams, fragmented images of a beautiful world with silver trees and crystalline cities, all tinged with the sorrow of loss. "We need supplies," Marcus said as Sienna joined him, looking healthier than she had in days. The bruises on her face had faded to pale shadows against her copper-tinted skin. "And I need to get that tracking device out of my jacket." Sienna's eyes widened. "You knew. I'm a paranoid ex-soldier, remember? Found it on day 2. He gestured to the scanner display. "But I left it active. Wanted to see if we were being followed before I destroyed it. And nothing yet. But that won't last." He pulled up a star chart. "There's a station here, Oasis 7. It's neutral territory, run by a collective of refugees from various conflicts. If anywhere will let us resupply without asking questions, it's there." Sienna moved closer to study the display, and Marcus caught that subtle scent that seemed uniquely hers, something like rain on metal, sharp yet pleasant. She'd borrowed one of his shirts, and it hung loosely on her smaller frame, the sleeves rolled up to reveal her slender forearms. "I sensed something there," she said quietly, her fingers hovering over the display. "Not danger, but familiarity. Others like me, perhaps." Marcus felt his heart skip. "More Ethel? Maybe. The impression is faint, but—" She turned to face him, and he was struck again by how expressive her amber eyes were. "Marcus, if there are others, they might know." The alarm shrieked through Verdant Moon's settlement as dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson that felt ominously prophetic. Marcus was already awake, had been for hours, running through defensive scenarios in his mind while Nyx slept curled against him, her luminescent skin casting soft purple shadows across the simple quarters they'd shared. Now she stood beside him at the command center, a repurposed cargo container filled with salvaged equipment, her hand pressed against the sensory array Elder Myra's people had constructed. Her eyes were closed, silver markings pulsing with concentration as she extended her empathic awareness outward. "For ships," she reported, her voice tight with strain. "Corporate mercenary vessels, Obsidian collective markings. They're not trying to hide anymore, this is a full assault force." Her eyes snapped open, finding his. "Marcus, they're not just here for me. They want all of us. Every Solari in the colony. Then they're going to be disappointed." Marcus pulled up the holographic display of the valley. The refugee settlement was vulnerable, built for shelter rather than defense, but they'd spent the last 2 days preparing what they could. "How long do we have?" 30 minutes before they're in orbital strike range." Nyx's hand found his, squeezing tightly. "I can sense their commander's intentions. He plans to disable the settlement's power grid first, then land troops to capture us alive. We're too valuable to simply destroy." Marcus studied the terrain, his freight pilot's mind calculating angles and possibilities. The valley was surrounded by steep cliffs honeycombed with abandoned mining tunnels. The colonists had limited weapons, mostly civilian arms and a few military surplus pieces Marcus had requisitioned from his contacts. Against a corporate strike force, they'd be outgunned in any direct engagement. But direct wasn't the only option. "Can you sense individuals?" he asked Nyx. "Pinpoint where th.